to your latest infidelity.
And your honorable cuckolding.
I'm so sorry.
Just fuck me. Okay. Century poet who fell in love with his cousin.
Fell in love with his cousin.
Shut up!
Welcome to the channel. Today we take a look at a 2018 comedy drama titled The Professor. The movies tell the story of a professor who learns that he has a few months to live and because of that starts living recklessly. This movie features Johnny Depp, Rosemary DeWitt, Odessa Young, and a couple of others. So Johnny Depp played the role of the professor named Richard. The movie begins with Richard in the doctor's office listening to the doctor telling him the most devastating news. He has lung cancer and without treatment only has 6 months to live. He leaves the office completely shattered. He heads to the university where he lectures to continue his day, but he is not himself. He is seen sitting with other lecturers in a meeting, but his mind is elsewhere. He heads to class to teach, but he's still not able to do that. He leaves the class and goes into a pool to reflect. He heads back home and has dinner with his family. His wife Veronica and daughter Olivia sit with him. Oliver tells her parents that she is a lesbian. Richard supports her, but Veronica laughs and calls it a phase. This makes Olivia angry and she leaves the dining room. Now it's just Richard and Veronica sitting across from each other. Veronica also has shocking news to share. She tells Richard that she has been having an affair with his boss at work, Henry. To Veronica's surprise, Richard isn't affected by this, in fact, calls her out for her taste in men with infidelity. He laughs and this pisses Veronica off. She's not happy Richard is not moved by the news and she also leaves the dining room. Veronica and Olivia have no idea what Richard is going through. The next day, Richard goes to class to address his students. He tells them that not all of them possess the qualities that he looks for in a student. He tells them the qualities and asks the ones without these qualities to leave as he will not be able to work with them. Many students leave and Richard is now left with a handful of students to teach. He tells them that they will only have to read just one book and give a lecture. He also notices a feminist among the few students who stayed behind. He makes it clear to the student and the whole class that he does not care about feminism or any argument on gender inequality. He ends the class and leaves, but before he steps out, he tells his students that his office will be open to any student that can get him weed. We then see Richard at the bar with his best friend and co-worker Peter. Richard asks Peter if he would be able to get a sabbatical break, but Peter is more interested in the reason why Richard wants the break. Richard then tells Peter about his medical condition and Peter breaks down and Richard asks him not to feel bad for him. Richard is now back at home with Veronica and he tells her not to let Olivia know about their current marital issues. He also tells her that she's free to continue with her affair with Henry as he also plans to have fun. They come to a peaceful agreement and drink, take pills, and get drunk. Olivia then walks in with her girlfriend and meets her parents in that embarrassing state. She is not happy with this and takes her girlfriend upstairs. This, however, does not stop Richard and Veronica as they go back to drinking immediately after Olivia leaves. Later that night, Richard and Veronica are in bed and Veronica tells Richard that she feels bad for not accepting their daughter's sexuality. The next day, Richard is in class with his students, and although he has not had cigarettes before, he asks them to smoke. He tries smoking and after one puff, realizes it's not a good idea. He then asks his students to introduce themselves and he realizes that one of his students is Henry's niece. Her name is Claire. He then takes his students to a bar and talks to them about life. He then tells his students that he needs to cheat on his wife with the bartender in the toilet, and he does. Later that night, he sits with Veronica and Olivia at the dining table for dinner, and we watch Veronica apologize to Olivia for not accepting her sexuality. Richard goes to class the next day and has Rose give her a lecture. She impresses him and he gives her an A-. The class comes to an end and Richard goes back to his office. He is then joined by a male student who offers him brownies and oral sex. Richard surprisingly agrees to this. Days after, during class, Richard tells his students that he enjoys spending time with them and he pulls out alcohol and drinks. Peter and Henry see this unethical act and they are not pleased. Peter takes Richard to a cancer support group, but Richard is not cool with the group. He believes that he and other cancer patients should spend their last days having fun and not sitting together being sorrowful. Peter and Richard head back to the bar to drink and chat. Claire joins them in the bar and helps Richard get Peter to a taxi. Claire and Richard head back to the bar to talk and Richard informs her about his medical condition. She feels very bad and asks him to dance with her. They get on the dance floor, get intimate, and just when she is about to kiss him, he falls down. He is rushed to the hospital and the next day, Peter visits him. Richard gets home and Veronica asks about his whereabouts. As he didn't sleep at home last night, he ignores her and goes up to his room to rest. The next day, Richard gets summoned to Henry's office. Henry planned to discipline him for his unethical behavior around his students. Richard interrupts Henry and tells him that he knows about his affair with his wife. Henry is shocked and in the end does not have a choice but to approve Richard's vacation request. On different occasions, Olivia and Veronica noticed that something was wrong with Richard, but Richard did not say anything. Days later, Richard is in class with his students and they listen to Claire's lecture as it is her turn. She impresses him and he gives her an A. This is the last class and he gives them one last speech. He encourages them to take every moment before they run out of moments. He then heads to his office to listen to music, but he falls to the ground once again. Peter arrives at the scene and helps Richard get up to his feet. He then takes him to the chapel and they chat there. Richard thanks Peter for being such a good friend. We then see Richard and Veronica arrive at an event as a couple. They meet Henry and his wife, and Richard greets Henry's wife with a deep kiss on the lips. He then goes to sit at a separate table and we see that he is extremely bored and can't wait to leave. He then stands up to address everyone. He announces his medical condition to the whole crowd and tells his wife that he is proud to be her husband and truly loved her. After his speech, he tells Veronica that he will leave and they say goodbye. Richard heads back home and Olivia joins him. She tells him that her girlfriend cheated on her and she consoles her. He then tells her that he is sick and will have to leave for good. She is completely heartbroken and they hug for the last time. We then see Richard driving alone in the night. He gets to a crossroads but drives straight ahead. And that is the end of the movie. Leave a like if you enjoyed the recap and subscribe to the channel if you haven't.